Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was the largest ancient civilization that was the center of the development of culture, economy, science, and technology in its time. Its success is not only because it succeeded in conquering the surrounding areas, but also a lot of technology and systems made by the kingdom which has now become the territory of the Iranian state, some of which are still used today. Kings Cyrus and Darius I created and developed a royal administration which later became the model for the administration of kingdoms today. The laws that apply in the territory of the Persian Empire are enforced fairly and equitably for all circles. The Persian Empire was centered in the capital city of Persepolis in southern Iran and is currently the largest archaeological site in the world. In 1979 the building was included in the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. One. Persian history. The Persian Empire was first founded by Cyrus the Great, who was nicknamed the King of Kings or Ashamzes in 550 BC. Cyrus was the grandson of King Mendes, Astyages. However, instead of being a grandson to be inherited by the kingdom, his grandfather had planned his assassination when Cyrus was born. Luckily, his grandfather's killer actually saved and took care of him. After the age of 10 years, Cyrus returned to his biological parents, King Cambyses I and Princess Mandane, who also received bad treatment from King Mendes. His grandfather's oppression grew hatred in Cyrus' heart, until in 553 BC, young Cyrus led a war against his grandfather. Cyrus welcomed the victory over the war that occurred for 3 years. This victory was also the beginning of the birth of the Persian Empire. 2. Territory of the kingdom. The Persian Empire, or also known as the Achaemenid Empire, was located in an area called Parsia, Persistan in Greek, which was bordered by the Persian Gulf to the east and the Tigris River to the west. Over time, the kingdom led by Cyrus the Great succeeded in conquering several surrounding areas and expanding its territory to become the kingdom with the widest area during the ancient civilization. After defeating the Medes, Babylonians and Lydians, the Persians began to conquer Egypt and Asia Minor, until at the peak of its glory its territory stretched up to 8 million kilometers from the Balkan Peninsula in Europe, which is now the countries of Ukraine, Romania and Bulgaria, to the Indus Valley in western India. The sea and territory of Egypt to the south. In Western history, Persia is mentioned as an enemy of the Greek state during the war between the two countries. The territory of the Persian Empire is now Iran, part of Central Asia, Thrace and Macedonia, Turkey, Pakistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Israel, northern Saudi Arabia, all settlement centers from ancient Egypt to Libya, as well as most of the coastal areas Black Sea. 3. The heyday. Since its inception by Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire has achieved glory by conquering the Medes, expanding its power to several areas in Asia Minor and South Asia, especially in western India, and even succeeded in conquering the new Babylonian kingdom, which, at that time, had a strong military power. Very superior. After the end of the reign of King Cyrus due to his defeat of the Tura nation, there was tension when looking for a replacement for King Cyrus. Finally, the Persian leaders agreed to elect the son of King Cyrus, Cambyses, after which tensions in the Persian Empire began to subside. King Cambyses apparently inherited the ability of his father. During his reign he succeeded in expanding the territory to the area of Egypt. This feat was amazing because at that time the Egyptian territory was a difficult area to conquer. The leadership of the Persian kingdom, after King Cambyses died, was replaced by King Darius I, in which it was during his reign that the Persian Empire reached its peak of glory. Different from the previous kings, King Darius I had no ambition to expand his territory by conquesting a number of territories. His focus was to build Persian civilization in a more advanced direction. The breakthrough made by King Darius I was more directed at the development of urban infrastructure. He rebuilt the palace, which was the capital city of Persepolis, and added a giant staircase as the main access to the palace. He also built a magnificent palace in the Susa area. Although not ambitious to conquer, Darius still strengthens his military by choosing soldiers who have been loyal to the Persian king. He provides luxurious facilities and high wages to soldiers who have long served the Persian Empire. In addition, King Darius also succeeded in perfecting several systems of government that had been made by the previous king, so that the Persians could be said to be in a period of prosperity. 4. Greatness. The Persian Empire was known as the center of the greatest civilization of its time, which had produced many breakthroughs in science, technology, and the political system. Inventor of the windmill. History claims that the nation that first invented the windmill was the Persians. They use it to irrigate the land and grind their crops. The vertical windmill design that they made is the forerunner of the windmills used today. The first nation initiator of human rights. The Persians are believed to be the originators of human rights. This is reinforced by the existence of the Cyrus Cylinder, a Persian heritage document containing the system that regulates human rights. Among the contents of the Cyrus Cylinder is regulating freedom of religion, freedom of language, and racial equality. In addition, Cyrus Cylinder also arranged for giving the opportunity to slaves and foreigners to return to their hometowns. During the war with Greece, Persia also abolished the slavery system that existed at that time. Pioneer of the age of spying. Persia created innovations in the field of intelligence by establishing a spy agency, espionage, which they used to maintain the stability of the country. The Persian Empire was divided into 20 regions, each of which was led by a governor. One of the governor's duties was to manage the finances of his territory and to pay tribute to the king. The king then formed a spy agency whose job was to oversee the management of money in the territory and ensure that the taxes paid were appropriate. Building the longest road. As a great civilization with a vast territory, Persians built a long road to facilitate economic access and territorial control. The road, which was built on the idea of King Darius I, stretches from the Sardis region, Turkey, to the Susa area, Iran, and is recorded in history as the longest road that was first built, with a distance of about 2,699 kilometers. Has an influence on the development of English. Apart from having an influence on economic and cultural development, Persian also has an influence on the development of the English language. This can be seen from most of the English vocabularies that have similarities are adapted from Persian, such as doctor, taken from Persian, namely, doktar, balakana, in Persian to balcony, in English, hashashin, to assassin, and shamat, became checkmate. Persian ruin. In 480 BC, the Persian Empire experienced a period of decline after the failed invasion of Greece by Xerxes I. The defense of the Persian lands consumed the kingdom's funds and resulted in burdensome tax increases. In 333 BC, there was an attack by Alexander and the Macedonian troops who were carrying out a conquest mission that his father had done before he died. After successfully occupying Egypt, Alexander led his troops to Mesopotamia, where they were confronted again by the Persian army led by Darius III. In the battle known as the Battle of Gaugamela, the Persian army lost and fled. Apparently, the Persian Empire not only had to face attacks from inside the kingdom, the king also had to face a rebellion led by Bessus, so that when Alexander succeeded in occupying the city of Bactria, he had to face the fact that King Darius III had died. After killing Darius III, Bessus and his followers proclaimed themselves the new rulers of the Persian Empire by using the title Artaxerxes V. The new ruler then withdrew his troops to the region of Central Asia. After its destruction, the Persian Empire again changed leaders and continued to be an area that other kingdoms wanted to dominate. However, Even though it had risen from a period of decline and became one of the centers of Islamic development during the Safavid dynasty, the Persian Empire could no longer achieve the glory it had during the Achaemenid Empire. Those are 5 short stories quoted from Selasar.com. Hope it is useful. Thank you.